we're going to get here and it's going to be fucking incredible. And every single thing that you're going to go through to get here, it's not all going to be beautiful, and some of it is going to break you down completely, and everything is going to burn to the ground, and you're going to have to build it back up. But every single thing will be worth it. And I'm going to be here the whole time holding you.
And that's like kind of what we were speaking to yesterday a little bit, because from when we did the last shoot until now, you've been going through a whole metamorphosis of like, you know, like you were saying, you were just starting to see the light, and now you're just thriving in Europe, doing your retreat in Paris, doing this, doing your shoots, and then like, what, New York, a year full of retreats, like you just like broke on through to the other side.
And it took all that. Like, we're not going to get into any detail of that, but long story short, I left a marriage, and it was, to put it lightly, incredibly intense, and a lot of really heavy things happened in a short period of time. And I always say it brought me to my knees, like just brought me straight to spirit, straight to source, straight to God, straight to the universe, whatever word works for you there.
Hey biohackers, welcome to BioHack with Bailey. Today I am going to be interviewing the one and only Margo Renata. She is a epic photographer who focuses on women healing through embodiment in her photo shoot sessions. She also does retreats around the world. She also is just a multimedia artist, sharing her journey of navigating her own traumas, overcoming obstacles, and stepping into her most empowered, thriving state as a woman in 2022. Margo is based, maybe between LA, Costa Rica, New York, Hawaii, and then in between those places, you can find her bouncing around the world, empowering other women to rise up. So thank you, Margo, and can't wait to get into this epic interview. Yes! Here we are. Hello, gone wild. Humans gone wild. Here we are with the one and only Margo Renata.
It's me.
Margo is I'm going to let you introduce yourself, because you're a photographer, but you're taking on a whole new realm of creation right now.
Yeah, definitely. I am a living, breathing human, first and foremost. And I am barely on Earth, but still somehow grounded here. I'm a photographer and a conscious artist. I'm a space holder, a facilitator, a transmuter, a channeler, and just a living, breathing expression of love. That's really what it is. That's really what I am.
Yes. Margo does the most epic photo shoots. We've been doing photo shoot experiments together since we were about 9, and like definitely prepubescent awkward humans.
Where it all started.
Yeah.
It started in the womb, really. Like it's deep. It's deep. I've been this way my whole life. It's just evolved. Yeah. And like, thank goodness for the women like you in my life who allowed me to photograph them even in our childhood.
Yeah.
Our wild childhood. Talk about wild community, wild childhood.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much. We grew up together in roughly the jungle. Like a beach town in the jungle in Costa Rica. Mm-hmm. And yeah, wild childhood indeed.
I mean, yeah, I would say most of my wildest memories have you as a major part of them in those early years. And now here we are.
Going wild.
We made it through. Wilders. Yeah, we made it through. And like, we're here doing our thing. We survived.
Healing through art.
From
some of those wild moments.
Yes. And it's like, and thank God for that. You know, I definitely had a period where yeah, just a lot of, and even growing up in Costa Rica, just sort of feeling like not having access and wondering. I had a lot of like existential stuff going on as a child and being like, it's so crazy that like I was born in this body into these parents who like live in this country and whatever, because it was so heavily influenced by like American culture just because of all the expats and all the international people. And yeah, it's just been interesting to reflect on how grateful I am that that was my experience, even though in the moment, in the present moment growing up, I struggled with it because I was like, how am I ever going to make something of myself coming from here? And now I'm like, that is has been a major reason why I like, yeah, just am who I am and have been able to make what I'm making right now.
I feel that, and I definitely resonate with that. And I feel like we both came into this world like on a mission and ready to create some epic stuff, epic art, epic change, epic, like just kind of on fire, ready for action. And then growing up in Tamarindo, in just like at that point, especially just a tiny beach town, I think I had like 7 people in my grade at one point.
And it was like, that was it. Like, those are your friends. Like, deal with it. There was no like, okay, I fit in with this crowd, or I like these people more. And I actually talk about that a lot. Like, it taught me tolerance, and it also taught me how to find common ground. And as a photographer, most of my clients now, at least as I've moved away from commercial photography and more into like using photography as a healing modality and using photography as my medicine through which I help people move through things and alchemize, you know, pain into beauty, or, you know, a new, more uplifting energy. I'll you know, just someone books a session with me, I meet up with them, we've maybe like had a few lines exchanged on Instagram. That's pretty much it. And then I automatically need to make them feel safe to be vulnerable, safe to be seen, safe to be expressed. And the biggest skill that I learned growing up in Costa Rica that I brought into my practice and what I do as an artist is immediately being able to find a connection point. It's like, give me like 3 minutes with someone and like I will find a very deep place where they can see themselves in me and where I see themselves, and where I see myself in them, and we can just go from there. And because I didn't have a choice of who I was going to be friends with or whatever, it was like, these are the girls in your grade, and the girls in the grade 2 years above you, and the boys in your grade and the ones 2 years below you, and like this is your community, and you have to figure out how to make it work. So I am really grateful for that. And it's definitely, it's a muscle that has to be exercised and a skill to be learned, to be able to like just go there with people. Because there's a lot of inner surrender that has to happen, and trust too. And yeah, it's kind of awesome.
But you have a magical power with that, for sure. For sure. Because just even if you look at your art, you can just see it in general. But I know when we did the shoot, for those of you watching, like all of the photos that I've used to brand myself over the past 3 months and for this podcast and everything are taken by Margo. So
it's true. It's me.
One shoot. We've done shoots over the years, but the most recent one, we did one shoot in Costa Rica, like pretty much in the town where we grew up. And I think it was like an hour, 2 hours. And I've always felt like I've always done like liberated kind of artsy nude photos and stuff, but I've always felt awkward getting into my sensuality and kind of like my divine femininity in photos. It's been more like edgy, artsy kind of thing, but not, or just like fashion, but not sensuality. For some reason I felt like around that in photos.
A lot of women do.
And Margo just helped me just go right there. Like there's some photos from there where I'm just, wow, look at me and my sensuality. It's crazy to watch.
That shoot was so fun for so many reasons. It's definitely like captures a time in my life because I was coming out of like a really like traumatic situation in like my personal life and had been doing like some deep healing in Costa Rica that was at the tail end of my like 3 months of just the death, you know, and I was just starting to make my way up out of the death to like start to make my way into the rebirth. Like I was just, you know, coming out. And it was just so cool to talk to you that day, because I was just in this place and you were kind of in this place. And it's funny because our friendship has lasted over so many years, and oftentimes we see each other once or twice a year in places all over the world. So it was cool to come together and to be like, yeah, this is where I'm at right now, and this is what's been happening, and I'm just in this like awakening, and I've just been in the death so heavy. And then to have you, yeah, you were just like so free and open and so like receptive to me, and oftentimes I'm the one receiving, and in a lot of ways on that shoot I felt like you were receiving me. And we literally shot on that rock in Langosta, and there was like a crowd of like 30 people watching the sunset, and you were just like naked on the rock, which like juts out in front of where everybody watches sunset. And I just love that you were just like, I don't care. Like, I don't care. Like, I have a body. And no, obviously nobody cared, of course. Like, but it was just so powerful. And I do think it spoke to like, I've heard this a lot from people, that I create like such a container and such a bubble, this like force field when I'm shooting, that, and this, for me, for my own self, like I also forget that there's even like a world going on outside of it. And I feel like we were just in our like energetic circuit, and like, yeah, it was really fun. I had a lot of fun that day.
Me too. It was really an important day for me. And I told my mom, like, I'd love for you to shoot with Margo. I just think it's it makes sense that you're getting into healing and doing retreats and stuff, because it is a very transformational experience. Like, to go from being someone who's been photographed at least over the past 10 years by a lot of different photographers, but still feeling uncomfortable in my natural sensual expression as a woman, and then to do that one shoot and feel like I naturally flourished in that moment. And then those are the photos that I want to use to brand Gone Wild and like my life's work, because it captures me in that essence. And like that state of freedom. And I think just speaking to the bubble and that shoot and why it felt so natural, and like, who cares that there's a bunch of tourists sitting right there, like, I think it really, for me, photographing in the nude, this kind of thing, it depends so much on my intention, or even when I observe that in other people, it comes back to the intention that impacts how I feel about it. Like, if the intention is to be free, to be in one's natural form, to feel like in one's femininity, and just like for the sake of the spiritual experience of that, because this is what we're born naked, I sleep naked, like we're, and a lot of people are uncomfortable with their bodies. I've definitely experienced that in many different ways. So if that's the intention of like expansion, healing, growth, embodiment, then I think it's just like a spiritual happening that anyone that's lucky enough to observe it is like going to remember that for the rest of their life. Not because it's a naked girl on the beach, but because of the intentionality and like the magic that's happening in that moment. Whereas if it's like, I notice that when my energy is coming from a more exhibition-y kind of space in nudity, it feels like I feel like uncomfortable kind of contraction there.
And so, like, what's really interesting about all that, and like some of the work I'm moving into now, as I'm opening up courses and I'm doing more mentorship and kind of getting into like facilitating on an even deeper level, still using some like photography and like embodiment practices as I do this, but just being able to work with people one-on-one, like without even a camera in my hand, is like, it's so interesting to me that there's this shame around that like exhibitionist thing about our bodies. And it's like, that is just patriarchal, and that is just what we've been taught. And we've been taught so much shame and guilt around that. And even like another layer to my work is even like removing that, where it's like, where you can even feel comfortable like in your exhibitionism. Like, God knows I do, right? Like, take one look at my Instagram, and like, yes, a lot of times it's about the freedom and it's about whatever, but like sometimes I'm just like, I am fucking hot in this body, and like I'm commanding attention, and like I'm inviting an abundance, and like I'm calling it in, and like boom, here we are. And it's like the guilt and the shame, that's for everybody else. Like, if people want to like project that onto me or whatever, like that's on them. Like, I don't claim that. I don't have that at all for myself. And that's going like another layer deeper, right? And like is definitely work that I feel really passionate about. But like, we start with like the first part. We start with like just the feeling liberated and the feeling comfortable and vulnerable and like safe in the body. And then a step deeper is to be like, okay, and now let's go to like the exhibitionist part of it, or the like the vain part of it, or just the beauty part of it, or whatever. And like all the guilt and shame that comes up around that, or all the like the discomfort, and like, oh, it's like, now let's even take that away. Like I'm trying to go that deep. Baby steps, right? We're not everybody's like ready to just go there, you know, but that's definitely like, that's the work that I feel called to do, to go that deep. And yeah, because there's just like, especially with the feminine, like we have so much, there's so much magic and power in our sexuality and our sensuality that we have been oppressed for so long, because it's so powerful, that if we are fully tapped into that, if our guilt and our shame is gone, and we don't censor ourselves in that way because of the guilt and the shame that like the patriarchy has put on us forever, imagine what can happen. The rising, baby, the rising of the feminine. Let's go. And that's my dharma, to release the divine feminine from captivity, and to like let it flourish, and in all its exhibitionism, and all its I'm here, and it's feeling, and it's I want to receive and fill me up and look at me and whatever, like
taking up all the space.
Yes, I'm like, let's go. So it's deep, and it's real, and it's a lot, and it's triggering as fuck. Am I allowed to cuss on this? We'll beep it out.
Yeah. This is not tailored towards kids.
Okay, I didn't think so. Although, you know, this is, it's all...
It'd be helpful for people to listen to.
Sure.
And like, if I listened to this maybe when I was in my preteen years, probably would have been impactful in a good way. Yeah,
definitely. And I'm definitely trying to live in a way, just being that woman that my 16-year-old self would have been able to learn a lot from, you know. And I was facilitating at a retreat this weekend, and the woman who I was co-facilitating with, her name's Akalanand, and she is a breathwork practitioner, and she's working with some really deep plant medicine right now, and she's also a Kundalini goddess. And she said something really interesting. She was like, I had this download that like my highest self has always been with me and is always with me. So like in every single place in my life, every single place I've been, my highest self, has always been there, and like is always right here with me. Yeah.
Got chills.
And oh my gosh, this retreat, this was my first, so this past weekend I facilitated at my first like full-on retreat as like a pillar, one of like, you know, as one of the main people. I had done like a workshop at a retreat in April, and that was like my first time serving my medicine in a retreat space, or doing transformational photography in a retreat space. And then this last weekend was my first time like actually like really being one of the facilitators. And I mean, I know that it was transformational for the women that I was working with, but even for me, like just even sitting in circles with women and doing the breath work stuff, that I hadn't really done much breath work before. I mean, I had like a full on psychedelic experience. I haven't even told you this yet. I was belting out like whale frequencies. It was insane. Afterwards, everyone was like, because everyone calls me a mermaid. Mermaid that's like my like my spirit creature, and everyone was like, you tapped into this like crazy underwater like whale mermaid like thing. Like it was wild. And one of the other girls was like going through it, like screaming, crying hysterically, and I was just like belting out these like whale songs, and like she was like I literally like rode your whale waves like through my fucking like hysterical breakdown. And it was wild, and I blacked out. I like didn't even realize I was doing it, and then I came to and realized I was doing it, and I was like, why isn't everybody else doing this? Like as if I felt like that's what was like supposed to be happening. And that came right after I had a super intense like hysterical like crying breakdown as well. And I'm just like going on about this, but
I love it.
It was so, and I mean, bring it back to you. It's funny because you gave me you led me through some breath work before this retreat because I was, you know, having some nerves, having some anxiety, and it felt so good. And to have it be you know, someone that I've like known and trusted my whole life. And it was very easy. It was quick or whatever, but it was just like, I was like, okay.
Yay, I'm glad you enjoyed it. When I saw the peaceful look come over your face afterwards, I was like, yes.
But yeah, it was wild. I had, and to bring it back to like the, you know, our highest selves are always with us, and transformation and all of that. While I was having the release, the cry before the whale song, we laughed the whole next day is about like my whale, like Margo's whale, and like the whale was there, and then there was the first whale, and there was the second whale, and then there was like the long period of whales. It became this whole thing. The whale. And it's funny because everyone was like, you need to record it, like you need to do the sound, and I'm like, I have no idea how I did that.
You were just channeling your inner whale. And
whales are a huge symbol for communication, for spirituality, for communication, for spirituality, for transformation. They're like the leaders and like not the leaders, but like the overseers. So like they, you know, and yeah, and for song and voice, yeah, the guardians of the ocean. And I was definitely like, that's the space I was holding at this retreat for sure. I was definitely, and like this mama whale, like, you know, thing.
I'm blown away by this whale experience.
It was so deep. It was so deep, and I've been thinking about the whale. I've definitely been thinking about the whale, and that voice that just like this whale just wanted to be heard.
I want to hear the whale.
And allegedly, it was beautiful. I don't know if the girls were just being nice, but everyone was like, it was beautiful. It was, yeah.
I'm so curious, like what even? Okay, well,
It came from many, like, it came from the soul, you know, it was so deep. Yeah, lifetimes
of whale connection.
Yeah, lifetime. Yeah, so I'm feeling like,
but I'm loving it so
no,
much.
it's so funny. Like, we were just, it's so, yeah, it's beautiful and hilarious. I was like, what? But so before the whale song came, I was hysterically crying, and Akalanand, who was leading us through the breathwork, she's like holding me, and she's like, there's more for you here, and I'm like, like screaming, crying, and I'm screaming, crying, and all of a sudden I'm 5 years. I'm in my childhood bedroom, and my 5-year-old self is leaning up against the door, where my parents are eating dinner outside because the dining room was like right next to my bedroom as a child, and I'm leaning up against the door, and I'm smashing my head, and I'm banging my hands against the door, and I'm screaming, crying. I'm screaming, crying in that moment, the same way that I would as a 5-year-old. Throwing a tantrum, and I'm begging my parents to let me out of my room, and I'm locked in my room, and I'm so angry, and I'm screaming, and I'm crying. And me now is standing there watching my 5-year-old self, like having this hysterical breakdown, and not doing anything but just watching it. And that's like what was happening as I was like going through the hysterics. And then as we were like and then the whale song came, and then post whale song, as we like came back into our bodies, I was reflecting like. And I realized, yeah, my highest self has always been with me. Like my highest self was there in that moment watching me. And there's this theme that I've gone through in therapy, and I've gone through with like, yeah, my spiritual business coach and all that, where it's like, I have this desire to be seen. And more important than that, I have this desire to have my pain seen, or like to be seen in my pain. And like, sorry, Mom, if you're listening to this, but as a child, I got shut away a lot when I was in pain and when I was crying. So I just wanted to be witnessed in it so bad. Mm-hmm. And I was having this thing like, okay, well, if my high self was always with me, like, okay. And like, why did I go back there? And I'm like, oh, I literally just healed my fucking childhood trauma of wanting to be seen, because my highest self just went there and saw myself. Like I just did that full work.
Body chills right now. Like I feel it on my face.
Yeah. Even. I just did that work. That's what that was. Mic drop.
What? Yeah, exactly.
I mean, this shit is real.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, it's crazy because it's only us that can do that work.
Yeah. No one can do that for you.
That's why I love like the way that you facilitate. And also after doing work with different healers and practitioners and stuff, there's some that are like, I can heal you from anything. And then there's some that are like, let me guide you through healing yourself. Let me give you the tools to heal yourself.
Let me hold the space.
Those are the ones that I resonate with. Yeah. Because like, you know, especially in this global like traveling world and everything, I'm not going to go back to the same sound healer once a week every time in person. Like, it's just not practical.
No.
Like, I need to know how to heal myself in that.
Yeah.
And holding space in a way like that, and obviously nice, like we can meet up in different cities here and there, but to do that work, and even just the experience, not just the experience that you just had, to go back to those moments, it reminds me of psychedelic experiences, or like iboga or ayahuasca kind of experiences, where it's like the inner child, just wanting to be held and seen in that. And I've heard people say, like, you know, visualize your inner child. If she looks sad or anything, like, go and hold her and
pick her up.
Yeah. And when I did ayahuasca, I had similar kind of experiences where that was, and I felt a lot of immense sadness because I reflected on really deep traumatic things that I've experienced, and seeing my inner child just feeling so abandoned in those moments, and really accepting that I was the one that abandoned her in those moments. And then feeling like, oof, and I just cried and cried and cried, because, like, if you imagine little baby Margo, just adorable, like, adorable. The baby Bailey is on the fridge right now, adorable, like, unbelievable.
Those big blue eyes.
Right? And then to think of that little precious being just, like, feeling abandoned in a traumatic experience by me.
Yeah.
Like, that's a hard pill to swallow. That's heavy. But to be able to sit with that and then go through the forgiveness.
Yes. To pick yourself up.
All of that, and actually
hold
be
you.
The higher self version of you that's time traveling back to that. To hold that little precious being and be like, we're in this. I got you. Like, we're together. We're gonna get
here. We're gonna get here, and it's gonna be fucking incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And every single thing that you're gonna go through to get here, it's not all going to be beautiful, and some of it is going to break you down completely, and everything is going to burn to the ground, and you're going to have to build it back up. But every single thing will be worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be here the whole time holding you.
And that's like kind of what we were speaking to yesterday a little bit, because from when we did the last shoot until now, you've been going through a whole metamorphosis of, like, you know, like you were saying, you were just starting to see the light, and now you're just thriving in Europe, doing your retreat in Paris, doing this, doing your shoots, and then, like, New York, a year full of retreats. Like, you just, like, broke on through to the other side.
And it took all that. Like, we're not going to get into any detail of that, but long story short, I left a marriage, and it was, to put it lightly, incredibly intense, and a lot of really heavy things happened in a short period of time. And I always say it brought me to my knees, like, just brought me straight to spirit, straight to source, straight to God, straight to the universe, whatever word works for you there. And I just was like, I can't do this anymore. The way that I've been living, these patterns, these cycles, these behaviors, it doesn't work for me anymore. I don't want this for myself. In this moment, I'm choosing myself, and I'm choosing to love myself. And now, and I, by making that choice, like, now there's all this work that's going to come with that, right? It's like, boom. And it's incredible, because I was in so much pain, and I was so lost, and I was so in the darkness, and so in the death. And all of this came from that. Like, I was, you know, just under a year ago was deep in it. And now I'm here, and, like, completely surrendered to my dharma of serving women, and leading them into liberation and self-love, and releasing them of shame around their bodies and their sensuality and expression, and, like, just living as this permission slip that, like, yes, you can have this life, and, like, yes, you can choose yourself, and yes, you can start over, and yes, you can make money and also be of service, and you know, you can be this being who's very connected to their sexuality, and live lightly, you know, and still, and get everything you want in that, actually, you know. And I mean, it's just been, like, I'm calling my work transformational photography, because it's like, I just went through the biggest fucking transformation ever, and I just want to give that to everybody. Like, I'm like, abundance mindset, like, you got transformation, you get, everybody gets a transformation. Like, let's go. So it's really beautiful. And then there was so much pain. And I also want to say that, like, transformation and spiritual awakening and alchemy and, you know, bursting out of the cocoon and all that doesn't have to be painful. For me in this period, it was painful and traumatic. But I also trust that like there will be more of this for me in my life, and it won't all be painful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Would you say that kind of going through that sort of dark night of the soul or death of that old version of yourself and experience of life that you were having and stepping into this next iteration was kind of like your catalyst or the door opening into the more like spiritual awakening vibes? Or what do you think catalyzed that? Because I remember seeing you've been doing like even since Sad Girls Club and
OG.
just all your photography, the OG photo page, love it. But since then you've been very outspoken about your values and what you believe in and women's empowerment and things like this. But I feel like it's been more recent, the real like diving into the depths of healing and transformation, consciousness. So what would you say kind of opened that door for you?
So it was kind of like, it was really slow and then all at once. So, I mean, like my sister started taking me to yoga when I was 14. And my sister is very much really in tune with her spirituality and her spiritual practice, and was kind of like my first spiritual mentor, but I didn't even realize it yet. I was just like, yeah, yoga, I sweat a lot and it makes my body look good, like cool. And like we say om and like namaste and that's interesting or whatever, you know, just kind of like, okay, a little like, just even the idea of like the mind, body, soul was sort of born then. And I was like, cool. And then I went to college and my sister had sent me like The Alchemist and another book that I can't remember the name of. And I was like, okay. This is interesting. Like, I can think about life in these kind of ways. All right. And I was like in school in Boston, and it's just, you know, it's super square and cold, and I stuck out like a sore thumb. Sore thumb? Is that a thing that you say? Yeah. And then I graduated and immediately moved to California because duh.
Good move.
Yeah, I had my bachelor's in nutrition, and I had this photography thing that I was kind of doing where, I was taking a lot of like nudes of women, my friends, and with very like floral themes and like gluing flower petals onto people's faces. And it was always very vulnerable and sort of this like sad work. And I was very outspoken about my stance on womanhood and all that. And then I moved to California, and I was hanging out in Venice Beach and just kind of like just around people that were conscious and sort of expanded and more in tune with their spirituality and the kinds of like philosophical ideas. And I started to kind of like really open to that. And I was like, okay. And then more and more I started attracting more people like that into my field, and started just kind of being like, oh, you know, reading a little bit more. And so I was already like lightly on that path and had realized like, being a commercial photographer isn't really the vibe for me. And like working with models and influencers, a lot of the time it does not feeling fulfilling. I'm like, what is my path? And I want to help people. So it was like, and then pretty much exactly at this time last year, everything in my life fell apart very quickly. And that was like definitely like over like the you know, I don't know, from age 14 to 24, it was like just a little bit every year, trickling in. And then at 25 I guess 14 to 25. And then at like 26, or like my birthday's in a month, it was just like and I just went through like, it was just, I feel like I did 10 years, what had taken me 10 years, I did 10 times that amount in like 3 months, or in a year, I guess, maybe.
It's interesting that just hearing you say that, because it's like sometimes something I've been learning recently is sometimes the most traumatic things that we go through, or maybe even always, like it's actually meant to be that way. Like I was working with this healing woman in Costa Rica, and she was like, all of the sexual trauma that you've experienced is part of your dharma and part of your journey, because you're life purpose is related to opening the conversation around this stuff, holding space for other women and people to move through this kind of topic, because it's like something that most people in the world experience in some shape or form at least once.
Yeah.
Not many people talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, you are here to hold space for this conversation. And if you hadn't been through those things, you wouldn't have the wisdom to be, or the tools to be able to hold space like that. Yeah. So that made me immediately drop the victim mode, because I'm like, no longer sitting there like, why me? And instead it's like, oh, okay, it's just part of my path. Yeah. And that reminds me of what you were saying about your crying moment, and your higher self is there, and you could think like, why is my higher self not stepping in and like soothing this? But if you're meant to go through those things to be able to be where you are now, holding space for women to expand, or like me in similar but different mediums, different ways, it takes away the victim mindset, which I think is like one of the most important things in moving through trauma of any kind, whether 100%. It's through separation.
And you have to have it too. You have to have the period of feeling like the victim. That's also part of it. Or because it just is your feelings and whatever, and like that's all okay. And it's about like alchemizing that, transmuting that, moving out of that, right? And yeah, I always say I trust that the reroute was always the plan. And I also always say I give women one day of my life to change the rest of theirs.
Yes. And I wonder, because just hearing you talk about your journey with all of these things, it reminds, like, there's parallels also in my experience. And I think for anyone listening, there will be certain parallels as well. But when we were speaking yesterday, and you said like the wild part of you that you also see in me, and that's like also some of our childhood experiences, but then also the part that it's like, yeah, that's part of you. And then you also have your practical, like, adult kind of grounded side. But
that just recently came online. She was lost. She's been lost at sea for a long time. And it's taken a year of like very deep therapy, very deep spiritual awakening, very deep shadow work, very deep like mentorship from other women and like art to have that other part of me come online. That's like, peace frequency is your natural God-given right. Let's be, what were we saying yesterday? We want ease and stability. Yeah, ease and grace. Like stability. Let's not abandon ourselves and throw ourselves away. Let's take care of ourselves. Let's prioritize our dreams. Let's just breathe for a moment, and can we be still with ourselves and hold ourselves? And like, yeah, that part of me didn't come online until not even a year ago. Yeah, because there is that. Yeah, there's the element of the wildness that where it can sometimes lend itself to self-abandonment and not taking care of oneself or discarding oneself. Not always, but when I didn't have that other part of myself, that was like peace frequency, I take care of me, I support me, I look out for me, I prioritize me, and just the part of me that was like, let's take the wild ride. Let's say yes. Let's do the crazy fucking thing. Let's do all the feelings. Let's do all the expression, or not all the expression, but let's just go to 100 constantly every single time and throw everything else to the wind. That has gotten me so far and connected me to so many people. And especially as an artist, it's definitely like connecting to that wild woman archetype is like such a big part of it. But when you're only that's why like the archetypal work is so interesting. It's like, you want to have that mother archetype, you want to have that maiden archetype, that priestess archetype, the queen, the lioness. I mean, there's a million, but it's like, if you're only operating from the place of the wild woman without the other parts to like take care of you, as we said yesterday, can get you into some dangerous situations. And it was part of our journey, and it's beautiful, and I love it. And also now I've grown and evolved, and like, I want to take care of myself.
Exactly.
I want to hold me. Yeah, that's the work.
And that's the like integration of your highest self into those moments. And when you were saying about like how you realized in this retreat that you've had a deep desire to be seen also in your pain, I also resonate with that. And I think maybe that is a part of why we've both become like outspoken artists, putting ourselves out there, very wild and free and liberated and all of these things, because there is an aspect of the wanting to be seen. but then to learn the tools like you've been actively doing, and we both have in our own ways, and then being able to come in and be that nurturing, more like mother archetype to the wild and free, liberated one. That's when like the divine union of sorts comes
and that's
in.
when you can like up level and expand, and then you really start calling in even more like magical shit, and you can stay stable and take care of yourself through that. Like I fell apart a lot. I would fall apart just like all the time. I'm tired. I don't want to fall apart anymore. I want to just like get stronger and stronger and more stable, and have my field be like even more charged up and just like powerful. I don't want to fall apart all the time.
No. And that's like in the whole kind of mental health conversation and taking care of one's mental health. Like in my years leading up, I would get, like super highs, and then the lows, like hard lows, and depressive, anxious, sometimes suicidal thoughts, like all of the depths of that. And in the recent few years, I've been getting better at like, okay, I can see a downtrend. How can I balance this? Like exercise, nutrition, good sleep, give myself the day to just like be alone, have a bath, have the space, and like learning those tools is what this podcast is also about. Like learning the tools for the self-love, the self-care, moving through trauma, because I feel like that's something every human experiences in some kind of shape or form. And I think we're all learning that just going to get like a Band-Aid to put onto the problem is not really gonna be the solution.
No.
So
and it's tools, like we're evolving into like the new earth, right? Where like people are rising, consciousness expanding, we're like going, and this is how we do that. And by doing what we're doing, being outspoken about it, giving people ways at which they can not just put a Band-Aid on it, but actually like go to the wound and put the love and light on it so that it can
heal from within.
And like, I mean, go us, killing it. Let's go. And everybody has this magic, and everybody has this inside them too. And I mean, we're all just made of light and love, and like we're just lucky that in this evolution, or in this journey of our souls, that this is what we're here to do, and it's so beautiful and important that we're stepping up to it.
Definitely. And I think that is the time is now. If you look around at humanity, at the world, at everything, it's like the time is now to be stepping into our power and into service. Like the most aligned service to humanity with whatever unique skills and tools that we have. I was listening to a Mel Wells Love, Sex, Magic podcast.
Love her.
A woman that's a what's it called? I'm blanking on the word, but astrologist. And they were talking about the time in human history that we're at and stuff. And Mel was like, I mean, we're all healers in our own ways, and we all have our own message and our own medicine, and like the time is now to step up, and the world needs us now. And like, you know, you might think, who am I to do this podcast or do this project? But who are you to hide away from that in this moment?
And keep it from everyone. Don't be greedy with your magic.
Exactly.
Give us your magic. Give us your medicine. The world needs it.
And share it. Just like open the floodgates and let it pour through. And that was actually a big moment that inspired me, because I've been thinking about this podcast and like the message and everything for a long time. And then I heard that and I was like, I don't need to wait to have the perfect camera, the perfect microphone, the perfect studio, the perfect, like, just do it.
This is perfect. Emma Chamberlain does her podcast from her phone microphone and lays in her bed. I don't know if you know, she's like a big YouTuber, influencer-y girl, but she literally does her podcast like this. You know?
So wherever you are, whatever you do it. Share your medicine. And if you have a special tool or transformational journey that you want to share with the world, hit me up. Get on here. Share it. But let's leave we said 30 minutes. It's almost 45. I knew that we would be, I knew it was
a little over.
So let's leave the listeners with one life hack, biohack life hack. If you were talking to yourself, you know, at any point before where you are today, and going through things, you wanted to, like, someone who wants to, okay, how can I tangibly expand, heal, thrive through creative expression and like really tune into sharing my magic with the world, what would you say?
I would share my daily gratitude or my daily journal practice with them, which is first a gratitude practice, 3 things you're grateful for about yourself, 3 things you're grateful for about your life, then a manifestation list or a goal list, whatever word works for you, things that you're calling into your life. And then the third part is, I like to call it mind organization, where I basically write down any kind of like idea or feeling or like literally anything that's present in my mind that I've been kind of thinking about on a loop. And or if I can't get there for whatever reason, I write down a list of things that are uplifting me and the list of things that are bringing me down in my life. That daily journal practice, I swear to God, has given me the most immense upgrades and downloads that has gotten me to where I am in the last year and a half, actually.
I love it.
Yeah,
that's
a
really
game-changing journal practice. And normally you only get that if you're in my programs, but I shared it with you now. So do it, and try to do it every single day.
Yes, I love that. That is a tangible take-home tool that people can implement from anywhere. And yes, you need to check out Margo's Sacred Slut Unleashed program.
It's my first virtual course container. We just launched. It'll probably be something I do, hopefully every year, depending on how we go. I have 8 spots open. I think 5 are already claimed. I'm in the launch for another week, and it's the first of many. I also have private one-on-one mentorship containers, and obviously just my regular photo sessions. And you can find me on Instagram at Margo Renata.
We'll put the tag in the show notes. And yes, testimonial, it will be your favorite photo shoot you've ever done. It still is. Like, I've worked with a number of excellent photographers, and I've only posted the pictures that Margo took of me, like, at all for the past probably 3 months, because they're just that fabulous. And so it's time for us to go, because we're about to take some more pictures.
Yes, we are.
In Bali! So, love you guys. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Love you.
Get in touch with Margo with the link in the show notes and upgrade your life. Unleash your sacred slut, and also just like do the photo shoot, do the thing, do the one-on-one. You want to, trust me. All right, biohackers, that was an awesome episode. Thank you so much for being here and present and active on this adventure. I would love to connect further with you. If you go to biohackwithbailey.com, you can sign up for the newsletter and we can connect more deeply through that avenue. Also, if you like what you've been hearing in this episode, please do take a moment to leave a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Also, subscribe to the channel, share with your friends and family if you feel so compelled to. You are invited. This is your official invitation to do so. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you on the next episode. Love you lots, and remember to breathe and enjoy the magical moments of life. See you later. Peace out, A-Town. Do, yeah.